Thank you very much, Mr. Romel St. Hill, the Assistant Executive Director of the RSS, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Legal Affairs and Attorney General Chambers, the representative of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the representative of the Commissioner of Police, of course, our RSS Director, Ms. Keisha Sutherland, the RSS Legal Advisor, Ms. Carrington, and our distinguished facilitators who have decided to join us in person, and those who may be joining us by Zoom, distinguished heads of important state and government agencies, members of the law enforcement agencies of Guyana, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and last but not least, members of the press. It is a privilege to welcome you this morning to this important engagement. This is yet but another demonstration of our government's commitment to battle organized crimes, to battle criminal activities, and more particularly to discharge our multiple international and treaty obligations in relation to the positions we are adopting against criminal activities. There is only so much that a government can lawfully do, and I am here to assure you that our government is prepared and committed to do everything that is lawfully possible to discharge our obligations, our duties in the fight against organized criminal conduct. You would have heard already that we have perhaps the most modern legislative landscape currently in the Caribbean, and I want to publicly recognize and thank the Regional Security System Asset Recovery Unit for the guidance that they have provided in the last incarnation of amendments which we have done to our anti-money laundering, countering the financing of terrorism law. They have also guided us in the past in how to strengthen the overall legislative landscape, in particular as it relates to organized crime and the forfeiture of assets and proceeds derived from criminal conduct. Laws alone cannot address the situation successfully. Passing the best laws will only take you to a certain distance in the journey that one has to travel. Government is prepared to, and has demonstrably done so, to resource the law enforcement agencies and the different agencies of state that are integrated in this engagement against criminal conduct. Government is also committed to offer training opportunities, educational opportunities, and to make available all the scientific and technical apparatus and facilities that are required and would be required as we go forward in this journey. But all of that combined will not succeed. The other important component in the equation is your input and your participation, because that is what will make everything effective. Government can't investigate, government can't prosecute, government can't do those effective enforcement of the law. Your agencies of state are the agencies that the law empowers to carry out that part of the equation. And that is why workshops of this type and engagements of this nature are being organized, supported, and facilitated by the government. It is part of our duty and obligation to ensure that you are technically and functionally educated and equipped and properly trained to be able to enforce the effective and modern laws and use the resources which the government has made available in this battle against organized crime. So when the opportunity of this engagement presented itself, we accepted it willingly. You would have heard that one segment of this workshop has already been completed, and in that segment, judicial officers and magistrates participated because they are also key stakeholders in this equation. You are the other key stakeholders in the equation, because it is your work that will eventually reach the judiciary for adjudication. That's how the system is. Crime is becoming more and more sophisticated. Criminals are taking advantage of technological advancements and technological achievements. They are taking advantage of all the modern facilities that the age of information and technology is producing, with corresponding speed and sophistication. You, as law enforcement agencies, as investigators, and as prosecutors, have to respond. If you don't, then you would be outmaneuvered. You would be outmatched. This is a battle. It is a war. It is you against them. And I've always felt that in any given society, the criminals or the criminal organizations are but a few compared to the rest of the society. A minute few. Why then are they winning the war? There is no reason why they should be. Let us take Guyana. Let us assume that we have a population of 800,000. How many criminals do you think there is, or there are in this population? It can't be more than 2,000. It's 798,000 against 2,000. How are we losing that battle? It is because philosophically we are not appreciating it is us against them. And if every single Guyanese is to really understand that, ideologically and philosophically, I believe that we can stamp crime out or effectively reduce it. We have a Guyana police force of a couple thousand. There's no criminal organization known that has a few dozen members. These are simple realities that once we interrogate them, inculcate them, and make them part of our psyche, it transforms the way that we think. And you have the powers of the state. You have the right to use weapons openly. You have the right to carry weapons openly. You have the might of the state behind you. How a few dozen people causing upheaval and mayhem in this country? It is our government's firm commitment to reduce criminal activities of every kind, if not to stamp it out completely. The type of criminal activities that we are dealing with here specifically require a unified approach. This is not the cuss and slap case or type of offense or offenses. This here is organized crime, is money laundering, is trafficking of firearms, trafficking in drugs, Ponzi scheme, financial crimes. This is big business. And all the studies have shown that the most effective way of hitting back at the criminal, apart from getting them themselves and locking them up, convicting them, is to go after their assets. When you hit them in the pocket, they buckle, they topple, and they collapse. And that is why the world over has recognized the forfeiture of assets connected to criminal conduct or determined to be the proceeds of crime are now featuring as a prominent part of law enforcement. It may not have been so 20, 30 years ago. In Guyana, for example, admittedly, we have focused on investigating and convicting for the offense and jailing the convict. And we leave it like that. We close the case. That cannot continue anymore. As we are investigating for the offense, let us say it's trafficking in narcotics, simultaneous with that investigation must be the investigation into acquisition of assets believed to be derived from the criminal conduct. We have to now approach both types of investigations with the same seriousness and emphasis. Many a times you hear man pleads guilty for trafficking in narcotics. He is jailed for 5 years and he is fined $500 million. He goes to jail, he serves that sentence, and no step is taken to recover the $500 million. That must stop. That fine must now be enforced against properties. And we have now in our law the capacity and the legal powers and authority to do that. And when we start to seize multi-million and multi-billion dollars of properties, real, movable, and immovable, it will have a significant impact. But I caution that we do so in accordance with law. Every day I deal with cases where property is detained and kept without no subsequent actions taken. So it is left to rot in police custody or in the custody of the agency that seized it or detained it, and the state is then burdened with a lawsuit for compensation of that asset that has been allowed to rot and decay every single day. I have to be settling cases of that type. That will also not be tolerated. Once you detain, you have to detain for cause or release. Is that a problem? We'll get them again. But don't expose yourselves and don't expose the state to unnecessary liability. The workshop topics that will be examined here are very crucial to your investigation in relation to the issues to which I am making reference. It deals with the type of orders you are required to obtain when the law requires orders to be obtained. It will assist you on how to prepare those orders. Procedurally and substantively. It will tell you what is the threshold that you are required to meet. It will tell you when you can make the approaches. Also, what constitutes, when you can detain, what constitutes reasonable suspicion in certain circumstances. The type of orders you can get. All of that will be interrogated over the next 3 days. And as you heard, the judiciary went through a similar engagement and familiarization. I can't say learning because the judiciary is expected to know the law. So I'm saying familiarization or refamiliarization. So you are not going through this workshop in a sterile fashion or in isolation. The agency to which you will have to apply for these orders and to whom you will have to go to explain the law and to advocate your cause have already undergone a similar training exercise. In terms of forfeiture of assets, I have already received a recommendation from the RSS Asset Recovery Unit, which I'm considering seriously. A recommendation that will allow for the state, whenever it decides to detain property pursuant to investigations, detain for the purpose of forfeiture, it's a power that will allow the state to sell the property and keep the money in an interest-bearing account. I believe that that's a very pragmatic and realistic measure, because let us say you have very few equipment or property are not perishable. So if you seize an expensive motor car and you have a very good case and you intend, once you get the conviction, to forfeit, and you detain that car, there's every likelihood, if the case travels its normal course through the judicial hierarchical structure of any jurisdiction in the Caribbean, it will take years. By that time, the motor vehicle perishes, is destroyed, sometimes damaged beyond redemption. This new measure will allow you to sell the property at market value and keep the proceeds. If the person wins in the end, you give them back their money and you give them interest, rather than have the car perish or decay or rotten and nobody gets anything in the end, or you have to pay for it in the end. You can't return it because they will sue you. You have to restore it in the state it was when you took possession of it. So these are very exciting times that we are living in, and it's, I think, very exciting times for us to be in this battle against crime. Only last night I received a note from the University of Guyana that the forensic experts whom we brought into the country to attach to the forensic lab have met with the University of Guyana. By November, I am told, we will have certificate training programs being taught by them at the University of Guyana in the area of forensic sciences. And I would encourage all of you to participate, because we have to travel that road now. We have to do things forensically, scientifically, if we are to win this battle. This training is very opportune because, as Romel St. Hill said in his opening remarks, at the recently concluded mutual evaluation exercise done here by the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, our effectiveness in enforcing our laws was commented upon. And the comment was that we need to improve in that regard. We need more investigations, we need more cases filed, and we need more prosecutions, successful prosecutions. And obviously, now that our law is differently endowed, we now have the statutory mechanisms in place to go after the assets. We have that now. So all it requires now is for your enforcement. The last point I want to make, as I said to the judiciary, they are lucky in the sense that when we pass the laws here in this very august edifice, immediately after the bill becomes law, you, the law enforcement agencies, are expected to enforce it when you have never read it. By the time a case reaches the judiciary, they have a lot of time to familiarize themselves with the case and the law applicable to the case. You don't have the benefit of those luxuries, for want of a better word. From the time the bill becomes law, you are expected to enforce it. We have to find ways and means of getting you familiar with these laws at a very, very, very early stage, even perhaps at the bill stage, to make you more effective. How can you be expected to enforce laws that you don't even know? You have never read. How? And that is why we keep passing laws and you're not seeing offenses being charged in relation to those laws. The offenses that keep coming are the traditional, old, antiquated offenses. Nothing wrong with those offenses, but we are passing laws at regular intervals that create new offenses that allows you greater latitude, offenses that may carry higher penalties to make commission more dissuasive, but because of a lack of familiarity, for which I don't blame you, we don't get these offenses instituted. And we have to correct that. and we have to correct that quickly. And that can only be done through educational engagements of the type that we are currently engaged. So this is an extremely timely intervention, and I want to thank the RSS for collaborating with the government of Guyana on this important engagement. But most importantly, I want to thank you for coming out in your large numbers and demonstrating your willingness and preparedness to participate. We have to have many more engagements of this type as we continue this educated battle against crime and criminal conduct in our country. I thank you very much, and I wish you all the best over the next 3 days.